creates the difficulties in our life.
皆さん何も上手に死ぬ必要ないじゃないですか。
So there is really no reason for us to try to live, to die peacefully, or to try to die a good death.
痛い時は痛いと言い、苦しい時は苦しいと言い、どんな死に方をしてもよしと腹が据わったら逆に落ち着けるんです。
When we are in pain, to be able to say it hurts, that's the kind of life that we are talking about. When we are able to just accept the death that comes, regardless of the circumstances of that death, it is at that time that we are able to find true peace.
それが本当の安らぎですね。
That is true peace.
And that said so eloquently, I don't know whether to push you a little bit more on this or not, but I'd like to if I might. I agree to a great extent that I think you've raised one of the issues that we have to face as an entire world now, and that is the issue of power. You talked about powerlessness, accepting that with a kind of a state of humility before in your paper. And I think we've gotten into a great deal of trouble with the kind of control and domination that we've exercised in the world over and over again, and I understand it to be a part of the modern world. But there does seem to be emerging a new paradigm at times, one not based upon dominance and coercion, but on cooperation and interdependency. And it's been helpful for me to make a distinction in that regard between the words control and influence. I agree very much that we can't control our life or control another person's life, but I think we deeply influence one another's lives. And if I thought that I couldn't influence another's life, I don't know that I'd be a hospice chaplain. It seems to me that there is some capacity to influence a person's life or his or her experience or appreciation of life, even as we come into contact with one another. And even as I think that you're trying to do now with us, to influence us with your presentation today. So might you remark on that distinction between influence and control?
Situation that I would immediately think about is the organ transplant situation that was talked about in the presentation of the economically developed countries taking advantage of developing countries, third world countries, and the people who are suffering in poverty being taken advantage of because of the situation. And most of the time it happens that a person who is receiving the organ, or the family is receiving the organ, doesn't even know of those situations. And it's in those situations that major problems exist. And so, of course, to be able to influence is something that we all, in a good way, would try to do. But until, as far as specifically the problem of organ transplants, until there are some firm rules that are put in place on a global level, that the problem will continue to exist. People will still continue to be taken advantage of.
これは他の経済や環境の問題も同じなんですけども、 南米でですね、ストリートチルドレンが誘拐されて、臓器移植のために誘拐されていくという現状、あるいはフィリピンだとかタイなどでですね、貧しい人たちが腎臓を売るという現実があるわけなんですね。そういったことを我々はきちっと見据えていかなければならないと思いますね。
In South America and Central America, there are many incidents of street children who are kidnapped in order for powerful people to take their organs. We hear stories, similar stories in Thailand and in the Philippines and so forth. And these kinds of situations are not known to the entire world.
そういうことがそういうことにならないようなことを願っています。
We are all working, I think, to ensure that those kinds of things do not continue to happen.
I'd like to shift gears a little bit and maybe talk about the Bihar movement in general. I'm wondering, how is the Bihar hospice different from the other hospices in Japan, the Christian hospices? What makes Bihara Buddhist? Are there specific Buddhist practices that are involved? Can you talk a little bit about that?
まずビハーラとホスピスの違いですけれども、ホスピスというのはご承知の通り、キリスト教の教えによってですね、死を迎える、受け入れるためのサポートをする運動なりシステムなわけですね。で、仏教、ビハーラというのは仏教の教えに基づいて死を超えていくそういったその運動あるいはそういうサポートをですね、我々がビハーラと名付けているわけです。仏教ホスピスといってもこれはいいわけですね。
Regarding the differences between the Vihara and the hospice, I would, in my understanding, the hospice was originally at least based on Judeo-Christian tradition and traditions and their ways of being able to help people who are suffering. And so that the Vihara is a similar movement. It is based inherently in Buddhism, and so that we can say that Vihara is a Buddhist hospice.
で、そのビハーラ、キリスト教のホスピスも一緒でしょうけれども、ビハーラっていうのはその仏教のそれぞれの教えに基づいて死を超えていくわけですから、仏教の学びそのものだということができます。
The Vihara, probably similar to the hospice movement, its existence, although the difference would be that its existence is based in Buddhism, and it is based on a method to transcend death through the Dharma, and therefore we would say that it is Buddhist practice, it is Buddhism in practice, Buddhism in practice.
アメリカでもこういう動きはありますね。皆さんご存知だと思いますけども、サンフランシスコの全センターのマイドリーホスピス、あるいは、サンフランシスコのカミングホームホスピスではですね、チベット仏教や大乗仏典の涅槃行などをテキストにしてそのような活動をしておりますね。
At least on the mainland, there are a couple of hospices that are based in Buddhism. In San Francisco, the Zen hospice or Zen supported hospice called Maitreya Hospice, and then also the Coming Home Hospice that is based in Tibetan Buddhism.
仏教でもですね、その宗派によって方法論が違います。先ほど することは可能ですね。もちろんそれキリスト教と一緒にしても僕はいいと思ってます。
So that the organization itself or the institution itself may be supported by all Buddhist communities, and that the methodology in dealing with each particular patient could be different based on that person's background or needs or wishes. And in fact, I could envision having a hospice that is both Buddhist and Christian be able to share in the organizational facility and being different, say, in dealing, its actual dealings with the patient.
しかし、あくまでそれは患者の選択に任せるべきだと思いますね。患者が浄土真宗の患者ならば浄土真宗、禅の患者なら禅の禅、真宗なら真宗という形で対応すべきだろうと思います。
But we should always be, what do you call it? We should always respect the wishes of the patient himself. That if the patient wishes to have say, a Jodo Shinshu methodology, then to be able to provide that. If the person is of Zen background, to be able to provide that. To always honor the wishes of the patient.
Thank you. 先ほどのお話の中で言いましたように、私たちは死ぬ方法はありません。もう生まれてきておりますから、皆さん必ず死ぬわけです。
As I mentioned earlier, because we are already alive, there is no way that we can escape that.
死をいかに受け入れるか、共に学びたいと思いますね。
I would like to continue to study together with you how best we can transcend the fear of death.
それはたった今から死をタブーにしないで、死を見つめて学んでいくことだろう。
It is not to avoid or to consider death to be a taboo, but to face it straight on and to reflect deeply on death itself.
Thank you very much.
I much regret that we have no time for individual questions because I'm sure a lot of you have. But Professor Tashiro and Reverend Ito will be here at the close of the program, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to answer any questions. And at this time, I'd like to take a minute to ask Rose Nakamura to stand and be recognized. She's the director of Project Dana, which is already a Buddhist approximation of the Buddhist Vihara movement that seems to be always initiating in Higashi Honganji and Nishi Honganji, and you might want to ask her questions about that movement here. Anyway, that was, yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I do not mean to crowd your time, but there are several things I feel that I need to clarify about this, or I will not feel comfortable when I leave.
Well, you may perfectly well clarify them at the end of the presentation, but right now we have another speaker, and so I'll ask you to be patient. We're living until we die. And if you do not maki in the next 5 minutes or hour, there will be time for you to clarify. And maybe your mind will settle a little bit while you listen. Our next speaker is the Venerable Jinmo Lee, whose topic is dealing with death in the Buddhist tradition. He's an old friend of many of us. He lived for many years at this temple. He's been one of the primary organizers and charter members of the Hawaii Association for International Buddhists. He is now studying for his doctorate at UC Berkeley. And just to look at the Venerable Jinmo Lee, you see that Buddhism, which many people describe as suffering, is pure joy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fellow to just stand up, please, and have a some exercise. That's just follow me, you know. Right. Raise your hand and breathe in deep and breathe out. sayings. One who breathes in and do not breathe out is dead. And one who breathes out and breathes in is dead. They say life is in a breath. Just it's my responsibility to represent Korean traditional Buddhist attitude, approach, and certain ritual service about death. But as you know, time is very limited, so I just took many things and give out time. As you know, this has been constant throughout history and universal around the world. Everyone and all societies have had to cope with the inevitability of death. However, dealings with and attitude toward death and dying have been as variable as civilization and cultures in which they developed. People's understanding or beliefs regarding this has shaped not only attitude toward death and dying, but attitude toward life as well. Important in shaping attitude toward living and dying are mainly socio-economic and religious cultural tradition. I will attempt to draw out an outline on dealing with death in the Korean Buddhist tradition from its ritual services based on text. 성문의견, the handbook of Buddhist life, as I give a brief performance this morning. It includes rites of funeral, memorial offerings, and hymns or songs are included. Buddhism in other religions, as Buddhism in other religions, Buddhism in Korea also has developed in its own social-cultural environment and historical process through which it has been changed depending on situations. It is known that the so-called three religions, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, has prevailed in East Asian countries. However, unlike China, Taoism has not institutionalized in Korea, although its spirit has been recognized among people related with folk art or shamanism, which is an indigenous belief and was before Confucianism and Buddhism were introduced into Korea from China. However, Confucianism has functioned more as an ethics and statecraft rather than religion. However, Confucianism has functioned more in daily life. Therefore, Buddhism has played the major role in religious cultural tradition in Korea. When Buddhism came to Korea from China in the later half of the 4th century, it was welcomed at court and it provides politically unifying forces for each kingdom, Goryeo, Baekje, and Silla. I just give a background to understand easily in the Korean situation. Eventually, Buddhism became the state religion in the Three Kingdoms. When Silla unified the Three Kingdoms in 680 Common Era, Buddhism reached this approach of doctrinal studies. It flourished under the patronage of the state with tax exemption, and in the Korean dynasty enjoyed the most privilege in every field of the society. In Korea, meditation practice, we call it Sun, Zen in Japanese, Chan in actually Chinese, Dhyana in Sanskrit, prevailed as well as doctrinal studies of Gyo. However, when the Joseon dynasty, which was based on the so-called Neo-Confucianism, began to change the socio-economic structure and shift to political power to Confucianism, Buddhists had to face the hostility of the aggressive Confucians and the support oppressing from the Confucian government that had always been afraid of Buddhist institutions, which were the only one that could challenge them. In Joseon, Sun was dominant, but Gyo was maintained and pure land practice was popularized. It seems that during the Joseon period, Buddhism could be sustained under the oppression of Confucianism, which lacks religious thought and ritual services dealing with the death and beyond which Buddhism has. Buddhist tradition has been mainly preserved by monks in mountains and less of lay believers in the society, particularly by women, who were also marginalized by the Confucian social system. However, ordinary Korean people have maintained an inclusive way of living and dying in social culture, depending on their situation, such as dealing with family lives by Confucian ethics and death and afterlife through Buddhism. As the attitude toward death, before we examine the traditional Korean Buddhist attitude toward death, let's briefly read the dominant attitudes of Confucians and Buddhism in general. For the background, it is known that Confucians have tended to refuse to mention death and afterlife. For instance, when Zhu, one of the eminent disciple of Confucius, asked the death, Confucius said, if we do not yet know about life, how can we know about death? However, they thought that death is a natural development in a continuum with the life based on the thought that man is an integral part of the universe. Having practiced ancestor worship, they believe in continued existence of souls, although physical substance returns to nature. Death does not separate the departed from the living, but changes the relationship to different levels. The attitude of the living toward departed members of the family or communities are of the continuous remembrance and affection. They thought that the person has two soul elements as being integrated with qi, so material process or energy for life. The hun, in Korean, hun or shen, the shin is associated with the spiritual light and yang, the positive principle, which might reside in a spirit tablet to receive the commemoration of descendants, but which eventually liberty to heaven. The po in Chinese, the back in Korean, or kue, is associated with body, darkness, and yin, negative principle, which has a death and with the decomposition of the body, the liberty to the earth, deciding the grave. This integration of qi along with that of soul becomes death in Christian understanding. Confucians accept death as a natural process and believe in afterlife of soul, who is heaven and based on earth or in the world under the earth. The Korean Buddhist, not the Korean Buddhist, but Buddhist attitude toward death is like Buddha taught and Buddhists have seen that everything is constantly changing, as you know. Whatever is born must sooner or later die. There is no fixed self, and nirvana transcends birth and death. Therefore, death is a process of change and is only overcome through achieving nirvana. This is made seen as happening to the physical body by destroying the organization of the elements which constitute it, and as an unavoidable state in the continuity of personal life from birth, which is an ongoing process of transmission of the entire evolutionary process in all its possibility and probability. Buddhists mainly deal with this in two ways of soteriological process. One is to attain enlightenment for nirvana, and the other is to bring about a more favorable afterlife or rebirth. Without attaining nirvana, one will be reborn in a certain rhythm according to one's karma. There are 6 directions of rebirth: that of heavenly beings, so devas, of benevolence, spirit, ashura, of human beings, of animals, of hungry ghosts, and of hells. Some practitioners try to live as though through death as so-called great death, which refers to the death of ordinary or geological conditions, consciousness of birth and death. Ordinary Korean Buddhists, particularly among lay people, have concerned and managed their lives through complex Buddhist tradition, which includes not only thought and practice of various Buddhist schools, but also some basic Confucianism and folk beliefs. Now I will introduce a kind of pre-modern ballad Huishingo, Song of Regeneration, from which we can trace general ideas of ordinary Korean Buddhist attitude toward living and dying. Huishingo can be sung or simply recited without any helps from musical instrument and without any performing restrictions. It seems that Huishingo, as its title means, mainly focus on regenerating people and has been sung not only by Buddhists but also non-Buddhists because it has much common touch. Following is my extraction from Huishingo regarding human life and death or afterlife. One should appreciate that it is great fortune to be born as a human being who can become a sage through transformation from ordinary person. One should know and practice the three basic human relations between sovereign and subject, father and son, husband and wife. The five virtues: benevolence, righteousness, politeness, wisdom, faith, and the 8 items of learning and practice: perception of nature, deep understanding, sincere thought, correct mind, self-cultivation, family management, state administration, and pacifying the world. One should apprehend the social situation, degraded public morality, conflict derived from greed and hatred. One should be aware of the fact that everyone is getting old, everything is impermanent, death is inevitable. One should think that illusional life is like a dream. One should know cause of natural disasters and poverty, death and karmic punishment in the hells. One should remember royalty and pure piety for this life and pure land practice for future life. One should be aware of the effect of accumulated merits and bad karma. One should know that the great Buddha of infinite life is clear in oneself. One could experience that when one practices pure land and meet Amitabha Buddha oneself, then one would be in the pure land in that moment without moving a step from one's own place. They sit at the lotus seat, drink the Chajo's tea. Chajo is the most famous Zen master in China, and he always offer the tea to his disciples and visitors, and sing a song of peace and joy. Homage to Amitabha Buddha and Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. These are the selected passages. Homage to, from the above mentioned plot, we can put out some characters which were generated by many Buddhism and Confucianism, such as emphasis on the principle of causes and effects, with karma of merit and demerit through reward and punishment, impermanence and acceptance of aging and dying as an inevitable nature, and religious recommendation of pure land practice to assure your future life or afterlife. Then let's see, facing death. When one's death is close, one is located at the center of one's home, and members of one's family are called to one's deathbed. In Buddhist tradition, pray the dying person to sing holy thoughts so that one may be assured of better state in the next life. Some Buddhist priests are invited to preach Dharma or pray for the good reverse. At the time of dying, if a priest could not be present, then family members, relatives and friends, or whoever may be at the deathbed, recite the sutra or Buddha's name. just 나미 하고 타고 할 때 보이지 않을까봐 보이시다. Some old people prepare their clothes, coffins, and grapes much earlier than their dying time. And I wrote about the funeral rites and funeral service. So I mean, just people life and facing life and just after life, how we dealing the death, take care of the body and after that we will give a funeral service. But I didn't enough time, so I skip basics. I wrote this based on the text. This morning we have heard something from the text. By the way, that is one of the most important things, the precept of the impermanence. You can imagine the basic idea of the text. This precept of impermanence is decided by preceptor or Buddhist priest in front of the dead. The content of the precept is used to comfort the dead through preaching on the reality of the human body and the relative dharma. Through the passages, the precept of impermanence is a major door through which one enters nirvana, and the compassionate by which one crosses over the sea of suffering. Therefore, all of us have also entered into nirvana by this precept, and all sentient beings have been crossing over the seas of suffering by this precept. So, it's just remind the spirit of the dead and said, you today have escaped far away from the sensation of your organs of senses and have approached in the spiritual consciousness alone to receive the unsurpassed pure precept of Buddha. How happy you are. So here, this is a fortunate thing that, one was saying. So it's sure of the spirit of death. We can understand how important the precept is through this. It says that one's physical body, which was composed of the four elements, is not supposed to be attached and reluctant to depart. It also says the 12-link chain of causation or dependent origination and encourage to eradicate ignorance, which is the origin of the birth and death. It emphasizes the impermanence of the physical body by a birth. Whatever is phenomenal is impermanence. This is the dharma of appearance and disappearance. When both appearance and disappearance disappear, nirvana will be enjoyed. It seems that the precept gives a way not only to overcome one's physical death, but also offers one a spiritual death, by which one can experience enlightenment or salvation. And I'll just read this whole just title. You already have the translation of mine. First, haircut. Here, haircut symbolizes the cutting of one's own ignorance, which causes desire, hate, pride, doubt, wrong views of real self, going to extremes, perversion, stubbornness, and so on. So each process gave a very wonderful, very beautiful verses. So kantas or poems is offered to the dead, and but I have no time to read also. The next death. Then death here intend to purify the mind of the dead. This is for washing away the thought of illusion from death and obtaining one's time life is in destructible body, which refers to the eternal body or true body. Then washing hand. Washing hand is to show the principle that Buddha Dharma of the universe is in one's palm, coming from nowhere as an image of the clear moon appears from 1,000 rivers, going to nowhere, as a clear space covers all parts of the land. The next is washing feet. It means a complete all practice. And on the crossing, then putting on crosses, then putting on cap, putting on a cap to and the right sitting. Right sitting refers to emptying dharmas, and such seats refer to a house of Buddha or Bodhisattva. And in cupping or interment, then moving coffin. In this moment, spiritual offering are given, such as wonderful enlightenment is in front. Joy of meditation is the food. In the north, south, east, and west, everywhere is cheerful, like that. So then the procession. The order of the funeral procession is traditionally designated as follows. First, the man or boy must carry a red flag on which the title and name of the dead are written in black or white. Next, the man or boy follows carrying the spirit stand on which a spirit tablet, sometimes with a picture of the dead, is placed. Then, priest or the funeral leader is next in line and is in the third, followed by the carrier of the funeral. Male mourners come next, led by the chief mourner. Then relatives, friends, and other participants will some carrying banners eulogizing the dead. You saw the videos, many flags carrying by the arrows. The number of participants and the passing place are considered to design the procession. And there are two ways, burial and cremation. People for the burial, people putting the coffin into the earth, final dharma services offered to the dead, emphasizing that the spirit of the dead should not attach to the body and should go to the Pure Land or be reborn in a good place. It is usually said that all sentient beings, body and minds are like an illusion. The body form belongs to the four elements. The three periods of times are all equal. Ultimately, there is no coming and going. At the end, sharing words are delivered as well. Return to the underground where your final resting place is forever. Your body and spirit will be fine and your posterity will be well now. Your spirit will be returned to Buddhist paradise and joyfully wander around there as you wish. The concluding verses are Dharmakaya fills up the 10 billion worlds, universally emits golden light to shine on the world of human beings and God, or piercing forms suitable to all beings like a moon under the green dawn. However, he is a body of perfection and just sits down on the seat of the precious lotus. Therefore, cremation, just before the right in the funeral pyre on which coffin has been placed, a torch is held and the following dharma service is offered. This fire is not the fire of the three poisons. It is the fire of samadhi of Buddha. It's not the natural. The light is bright and glorious and universally shines through the three time periods. The flame is brilliant and permeates the universe. If one obtains the light, one becomes equal to all Buddhas in a moment. If one loses light, one will follow birth and death forever. Return the light and reflect, attain sudden enlightenment and immortality. Depart from defilement and sufferings and obtain to parinirvana. And presenting fire, while lighting the fire, the following was to remind the dead are dead. The three conditions harmoniously come together and make one reasons for a while. The four elements scatter and suddenly obtain witness. How many years have you wondered about the sea of illusion. Now, escape from the street seems, from there, seems very happy and cheerful like prosperity. When a wooden horse falls down, the rider turns over once. From inside, the great dead flame of cold wind is released. It's kind of a koan. And the farewell is just sent to the spirit. When flames have spread around the coffin, our farewell remarks send the spirit of the dead is delivered. For instance, since you have adapted yourself to all contingent circumstances, you take a peaceful rest. Therefore, we have completed cremation according to the law, and the designated process is having cremated both body, dead land a great day for 100 years, enter the gate of the one way to Nirvana. What of memorial service? There are various vocations of the memorial services and offering to spirit, such as 49 days after death, on annual days of death, and the seasonal days of the New Year, spring. It means the 105th day after the winter solstice. Ulan Day, the 15th days of the 7th lunar month, and Korean Thanksgiving Day, the 15th day of 8th lunar month, and autumn, some days in the 10th lunar month. Memorial services or offerings to spirits on these days are related to ancestor worship. However, content and procedure of the service is similar. Therefore, I will actually try to introduce the most popular memorial service here, but I couldn't give in detail. Memorial services normally consist of 3 parts: inviting spirit, blessing spirit, and offerings. So I skip all things and just read something as the conclusion. Sure. Actually, this memorial service already take about hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, or the whole night, or depends on the situation, and also funerals. So, from the above, I can say that dealing with the living and dying in the Buddhist tradition in Korean seems very spiritual as well as natural process. Buddhist practitioners have not paid much attention to physical body and death, but have concerned themselves with the spiritual body and death. In contrast to monk food, ordinary Buddhists or common people are not much concerned about spiritual death, but with the present life or good reverse after this life. Designation and content of the everyday life dealing with the dying have related to enlighten and to purify not only the mind or spirit of the dead, but also all participants of the life. Most people have been aware of the fact that aging and dying of human being is inevitable. Therefore, the reality of getting old and preparing for the facing death is expressed and demanded through various kinds of arts and rites to regenerate the meaning of living and dying. Through such a cultural tradition, the lives of people of society can be managed and sustained meaningfully. Content of the Buddhist tradition dealing with living and dying in Korea are basically similar to other Buddhist traditions in East Asian, but because the principle of thought and practice are common. However, we see that Buddhist lives of living and dying in Korea are mainly based on Sun tradition and Pure Land practice with the teaching of some minor texts such as Diamond Sutra, Heart Sutra, Flower Garment Sutra, Lotus Sutra, perfect enlightenment sutra and pure land sutra. Most of the verses cited from this text. Although phenomenal world has been changing, human beings' fundamental concern about living and dying are changeless. Therefore, we can say that expression of the art as life, dealing with dying and death, might be different depending on the cultural tradition and the time. But basic concern about and attitude towards dying and death are universal throughout the world and throughout time. Thank you for listening.
Right now, and thank you, Shimon, that was a very interesting. We have two respondents who will briefly respond to this paper. Mr. Kyung Tai Hong, UH graduate doctorate student in the Department of Philosophy, and Dr. Sondra Songjak Do, social worker with the Catholic Immigrant Services. Is that not what you are?
Is that correct?
Pardon?
I guess okay.
That's all right, that was what I was told, and I'm just, depending on it. So please correct the information.
Just let me make one excuse. I didn't get the Gino's manuscript, therefore I didn't have any idea of his presentation before I attended this meeting. And I found out that his presentation is quite different from the role that I am supposed to take. Therefore, I had discussion with Rex, and I was going to present some short remark about Buddhism and the relationship between Buddhism and Confucianism. And I think that my short presentation will be a kind of complementary work to the Gino's presentation. But actually it is quite long, therefore I just want to finish my short presentation in 5 minutes. I'm just my main understanding of the Buddhism and the Confucianism, the Korean people's mind, is that I've developed 4 arguments. First, that there are 3 common features between the Confucianism and Buddhism regarding the meaning of living and dying. And these 3 features have actually provided the ground of nourishing the meaning of living and dying in Korean minds throughout the history. That's the second argument. And the third argument is that Confucianism has some problem in its theory in explaining the death. Therefore, naturally, this problem leads to the actual problem in the realm of the living. And therefore, my 4th argument is that therefore, Buddhist theory or Buddhist idea of understanding living and dying should take more active role in contemporary Korean's mind. And I'd like to just read some part of my presentation. On the other hand, traditional Confucian thinking does not have any interest in investigating the time of the future, that is, death and the afterworld. They have only shown their interest in the structure of this present world. In this sense, there can be big difference between Confucianism and Buddhism. However, an intriguing point found out in Confucian tradition is that Confucian believers do not have any idea of the time of creation or eschatological time. Rather, they actually have the notion of time as continuity. My present time is constituted by the accumulation of the past time of my parents and ancestors, and my future time will be continued by my sons, daughters, and descendants. As I already explained in the first commonality, Confucian emphasis on the human relationship, especially familiar blood relationship, is the very basic ground that establishes the Confucian notion of time as continuity. And I'd like to say why Confucian thinking had caused problems in contemporary Korean's mind. I'd like to explain the problems. According to Buddha, any self-achievement which does not concern for others is the very source of suffering and karma. Caring for others in this world is a necessary condition for the better life in the next world after death. Here, Buddhistic concept of other people does not necessarily pay attention to people nearby or people at hand. Confucianism also gives emphasis to benevolent caring for others' well-being, but it has a bit different understanding about the meaning of self-achievement in this life. As I see in the second commonality, in Confucian mind, the meaning of my death, that is my future life, can be permeated through my familiar blood relationship. Therefore, the meaning of my present achievement can be projected into the afterworld only through people standing nearby me. Therefore, there is a high possibility in Confucian tradition that people tend to give love partially. They can say that my family first, my group first, and my society first. Psychologically speaking, for Confucian tradition, because of its lack of idea about the world of afterlife, it has to highlight the significance of this life and the effort at getting self-achievement in this life must provide the success orientation attitude, and because of its attitude of overcoming death in terms of blood lineage, it has to have tendency of partialism in human relationship. In contrast with Confucian tradition, Buddhism has a much better position to provide more appropriate model of human relationship. But unfortunately, many parts of Korean culture has been stained with partialism and secular success orientations. And contemporary Korean minds are also immensely influenced by such a Confucian tradition. What I want to say here is that conventional Buddhist society has failed to provide to Korean mind the model of appropriate human relationship which can overcome the distinctive weak point in Confucian understanding of human relationship that can lead people to familiar or regional partialism. Therefore, my last the conclusion is that by overviewing three common features embedded in Buddhism and Confucianism, here I propose that Korean Buddhism should pay its attention to developing more appropriate model of human relationship and provide more sound way of living which can overcome people's relentless pursuit of success. It was my conclusion. And please accept my short presentation as the response to Gino. Thank you.
quite understand why I was invited to be here today, but anyway, I agreed to be here and share my perspective as a Christian. Now, I missed the presentation in the morning, and I hope it was a little bit focused more on the living part rather than just on the dying part. I got to hear Professor from Japan, his presentation, and I got a little puzzled about what I thought Buddhism was about in terms of answering the ultimate questions regarding life and death. And I do hope that there's a differentiation in understanding death and the meaning of death from Buddhist point of view. I'm very lucky to have found this paragraph on this handout here. I'm going to read this to you because I think this is what I thought that Buddhist teaching is about life and death. On page 9, birth is originally no birth, death is originally no death. Birth and death are originally void, but reality is forever. And I do understand, I don't claim that I understand this perfectly, but I must say that I do understand to some extent as a Christian. And I'm sure that as a Buddhist, a lot of people would understand. The wording here is that birth is originally no birth. It didn't say life. And it also said death is originally no death. It seems to me, as a Christian, that we have to find illusion as much as in death, as much as in death. We might also find illusion in life, vice versa. I heard earlier that we have to remember that life is illusion. It seems to me that some Buddhists tend to focus so much on the power of death rather than on the power of life. And my logic is that if it's correct to think of death as reality and life as illusion, I think it's also correct to think of death as unreality and illusion, and think of life as a reality and truth, eternal truth. And that's the way from this perspective, I understand this particular sentence here, which is teaching of Buddhism. And I would like to think that Buddhism, although it does not have the same sense of God as the deity, I think that in truth, Buddhism and Christianity meet together in celebrating the power of life rather than the power of death. And this is what I understand to be, and if I am not correct, I would like to correct you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we've come to the end of a very interesting and diverse day. And I'd like to thank all of those who gave such wonderful talks and who responded in very interesting and diverse ways. We've been asked to remind you that next Saturday, same time, same channel, please come to the Tanhua Temple on Route 1 Avenue when Chinese attitudes toward death and dying will be the subject and the Chinese Buddhist Society will be the host.
Congratulations.